What's up guys, and Fernape here. Now I wasn't planning on making this video, but something happened recently that I kind of needed to make it. Basically, a few days ago, I decided to stick on Disney Plus. As you know, I do really like Disney. Then I saw this advertised. Peter Pan and Wendy. Now, I did a pantomime of Peter Pan a few months back. I played Captain Hook. So I wanted to see if this was as good as the original movie, or if it was somewhat similar to our pantomime, because of the fact that I was still in the pantomime fever. I have to admit, this movie's crap. Honestly, this was by far the worst live-action Disney movie I have ever seen in my life. And I have seen quite a few. Like, the next one down would probably be The Lion King. And honestly, it just was so unbearably annoying and just so laughably bad that it wasn't even funny. So I decided to go on a somewhat of a rant, but also somewhat of a video on why I didn't really enjoy the movie. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I'm making it. If you agree with me that this is the worst live Disney movie ever, if you have a different opinion on what you believe is the worst live-action Disney movie, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get into the video! Okay, I've written down some points on what I believe that this is a very bad movie. So, let's get into some of these points. So the first point I had to make is, I don't believe that the cast members were well picked. Now don't get me wrong, some of the cast members were very well picked. For example, the Darlings. Literally, the Darlings were probably the best chosen characters from that movie. Because let's compare the cartoon to the live action. Now, honestly, I could believe that this was a live adaptation movie based on the cartoon movie. But there were some actors who I just couldn't believe that they were who they say they were. For example, Peter Pan, Captain Hook, and some other characters as well. I mean, Tiger Lily was okay, but there were a few rough edges. Like, Tiger Lily is supposed to be like 11 or 12, I think. And in this movie, she's like 15. Or maybe 16, I don't know. But you get the point. She looks a bit too old to be playing Tiger Lily. Like, appearance-wise, she looks near identical. But she just looks a bit too old. Like, if she were a little younger, she'd be a perfect Tiger Lily. But, honestly, I just cannot believe that this is Tiger Lily. Like I said previously, I did a pantomime of Peter Pan. And honestly, I personally think that our cast was better picked than that movie. I may be a little bit biased because I was in that pantomime, but honestly, if you had seen it, you would agree. Hell, I even think the early 2000s movie of Peter Pan was better done.
What?
Like, the early 2000s live action Peter Pan, they had a much better cast than what this movie attempted. And considering that was made in the early 2000s, that is just sad. One other thing that I didn't really like about the movie was also the fact that they had changed quite a lot from the original manuscript. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes changes can be good. But most of the time, changes are bad when it comes to live action movies. And I gotta admit, Peter Pan and Wendy fits under the category of bad. Basically, some of the changes they made, to me, just didn't make sense. Like, I'm gonna go over some of the prime parts that didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but it is gonna contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, I would recommend going to point number 3. I'll leave a timestamp in the description so you don't get spoiled. But now, let's get into some of the plot. One point I didn't really like is that Captain Hook was originally a lost boy. Not only that, he was the first lost boy And he decided to leave to go find his mother, but he found out that his mother is dead, came back to Netherlands as an adult, and hated Peter because of the fact that he kept him in Neverland. I mean, while that is very interesting, I cannot deny it. It was a very interesting thing to do, but I can't lie, I'm not a big fan of it. Like, honestly, why would you do that? Honestly, it was not a good idea. Like, how the original cartoon did it was so much better. Like, honestly, what the hell is going on with them? So yeah, honestly, the changes they made sucked. However, I don't mind change as long as it works. But since you're doing a live adaptation of a movie, to me, it makes more sense to stick to the original script as much as possible. And honestly, they failed at Hook's backstory. While yes, it's interesting, it just doesn't work. I also think they should have kept the part where Hook and Smee capture Tiger Lily and take her to Skull Rock, because the whole point of the movie was them trying to find Peter Pan's hidden hideaway. And so, I think it would have made more sense to keep this part of the movie in. That way, we could have the funny bit of Peter imitating Captain Hook. Like, it's such an iconic scene. Like, why would you remove such an iconic scene from such a famous movie? This would also make more sense to Tiger Lily's background, because of the fact that in the original script, she's supposed to be maximum 12 years old, somewhat similar age to Wendy, possibly a little bit younger. But in this, she's like 15 or 16, and then she's on horseback with a spear, slicing up pirates like a Sunday roast. How does that make sense? How many 12-year-old girls do you know on horseback slicing pirates like some sort of Sunday dinner? None. So they had to get someone older to do it, but the sacrifice, it just doesn't make sense. One other issue I had was the Lost Boys. Oh, I'm probably going to get so much hate for this, but it has to be said. I just don't like the fact that you're specifically calling this group the Lost Boys, and there wasn't like a whole group of just boys in this group. Now, don't get me wrong, I love all-inclusivity. I don't have any grudges against it. Honestly, I'm a big supporter of all-inclusivity. Do whatever you want. I honestly don't mind. However, if you're gonna call yourself the Lost Boys, it should be a group of just boys. Or if you want on to be more inclusive, I personally would have changed the group name entirely, such as the Lost People, or the Lost Children, or the Lost Humans. Now, while I don't like the name change, it does make more sense to the story. But honestly, they probably would have gotten dislike bombed even more by changing the name entirely. But it does make more sense because they want to be more inclusive, and it makes more sense to the story than with what they were going with. Back to the topic of how things were originally written, I just didn't like the fact that the characters, well, at least some of the characters, didn't match the nationalities of the original cartoon. Now, don't get me wrong, before you do anything, I'm not against an all-national cast. Honestly, I'm so for it, as long as it doesn't muck up the story. Because this is supposed to be a live-action Disney movie. You're supposed to feel like this is the cartoon movie come to life. So when you're getting someone on like that Tinkerbell or the actor that played Peter Pan, it doesn't feel like the movie has come to life. I know that it doesn't sound good, but at the same time, I'm trying to express that if you're trying to bring forth a live-action movie, it should at least make sense by getting actors that best look like the cartoon characters. For example, Beauty and the Beast. That live action was brilliant. It was probably one of the best live action Disney movies I've ever seen, because I felt like this was the cartoon movie come to life. Yes, they did make some minor changes to the original manuscript, but it didn't affect it too heavily. Honestly, probably one of the best, if not the best, Disney live action I have ever seen. Then we move on to Peter Pan and Wendy, and it literally looks like a polished turd compared to Beauty and the Beast. Had it been my choice, I personally would have gotten August Matoro to play a Peter Pan, and then had Amanda Seyfried play Tinkerbell, because they both have experience in either working with Disney or working with a story that's originally based on a fairy tale. So honestly, I feel like those two actors would have been much better replacements than the two actors we originally had for this cast. And the final point I wanted to make is that I personally don't think the budget really helped matters. Let me explain. The budget for this movie was only $46 million. Now that may sound like a lot to you, but the average cost for a movie in this day and age is between $50 million to $100 million. So, since it fell beneath the budget, or at least the average budget, kind of shows that it wasn't going to be like a blockbuster hit. Yes, you could argue the fact that its budget requirement is probably what led to its downfall. However, Brother Bear had a similar budget, or maybe the same budget, and honestly, that got better praise than this movie. And Brother Bear came out over a decade ago. Honestly, that is just utterly sad. Like, that's the only way I can describe that. That is just utterly sad. Not to mention, in 1977, we had a movie which also fell under the average budget of that decade. It only had a budget of 11 million US dollars. However, to this day, it's still one of the biggest franchises in the entire world. Would you like to have a guess what that movie is? Before I answer, have a guess in the comments. 3, 2, 1, time's up. That movie was Star Wars A New Hope. Literally, the first ever Star Wars movie fell below the average budget of that time period, and it still brought in more money than they could even count. That is just sad because of the fact that it came out in the late 70s and they had limited technology back then compared to a movie that was made this year. And to think that people preferred a movie that came out in the late 70s compared to a movie that came out this year. That is just the definition of pathetic. The last thing I'm going to go over is also the fact that I personally didn't really like some of the animations they used. For the main one that comes to mind was the transition that they used in the movie. Do you remember the part of the movie where Wendy slaps Peter across the face and then it transitioned into another scene? Fun fact for you, I can do that exact transition with the technology that I'm using right now. For example, I'll do the exact transition that they used in that movie. See? Even I can do it! So the fact that they're using transitions that you can easily do on a MacBook, that is just sad. Because movies, like movie production companies, they're supposed to be bringing out the best of the best. They need to have the best soundtrack, the best editing software, the best cameras, the best mics, the best of everything. And the fact that they can't even get past transitions, that is just pathetic. Because that transition can be used by any teenager that knows how to use iMovie on a MacBook. That is just sad. And there it guys, hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, if you agree with the points I made, if you think I missed a point, if you actually enjoyed Peter Pan and Wendy, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I'm sorry if you didn't really find this video that entertaining, but that movie pissed me off so much I had to make this video. But honestly, it had to be done. I have a very strong attachment to Peter Pan. Like, honestly, it's probably my second favourite Disney movie of all time. So I've got a strong attachment to this movie. So it just had to be done. But regular content's going back to normal after this video is posted. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because once I hit 400 subscribers, I will be doing 4 random dares that you guys suggest to me. And I'm not backing out, no matter how crazy it is. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, or if you know someone who would be interested in my channel, share them with this. So that way, I can, you know, get to 400 subscribers and do some crazy ass dares. Did you enjoy the video as much as I did making it? If you did, be sure to give it a massive thumbs up, comment down below, share this video with a friend, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. It's been Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Infernape, signing off. Bye!